All right, greetings everybody, and welcome to week number 12. That is week number 12. That's two of these and then two of these of your 7314 class, which is your reference class. As always, I'm your professor, Dr. Jace K. Alston, and hopefully today's check-in video will be 25 minutes unsped, meaning that it should be around 20 minutes or even a little less sped up. There's not much to go over when it comes to the state of the course update. We are going to have one, and then after that, I'm going to tell you about basically persuasive argument databases. That there are two that you can use, and basically these are databases that you can use for public, academic, and K-12 libraries when you have students or people who are trying to write persuasive arguments, persuasive speeches, that sort of thing. These are basically like viewpoint databases. You'll see what I mean, but these are the two databases that are going to be your go-tos when, again, you have students who are trying to do things like write persuasive arguments or deliver persuasive speeches or tackle controversial issues such as abortion and the death penalty and those classics. Okay, so with that said, let's go ahead and get into that state of the course update. Again, this part is not going to take that long. The most important thing that you are going to need to know is that we do have a sync session next Tuesday. We will be hearing from Jamie Livingston, and she will be talking to us about services to the blind. Services to the blind and the visually impaired. And the reason why we do this presentation is because I want you all to realize that when we talk about providing access to people, we want to run the full gamut. We don't want to just provide access to those who have been limited based on cost or based on culture and things like that. We also do need to provide access and reduce access barriers to those who are disabled or differently abled, whichever term you want. I'm not gonna get into the term arguments. If you prefer disabled, go for it. If you prefer differently abled, go for it. I've had people in the past just try to, have a problem with one or the other. If I said disabled, students would be like, well, they prefer differently abled, and then vice versa. If I say differently abled, students would be in an uproar. I believe they actually prefer disabled. I don't know. And the left, I think, gets a little too concerned about terms and words. Use whichever you feel best fits, whichever makes you the most comfortable. But please know that there's not going to be one that everybody agrees with. And so if you try to nail me for whichever one that I use, and now I'm just trying to use both to keep people off my back, whichever one, I think we all kind of get what we're talking about here. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into this. Again, we will be hosting Jamie Livingston, and she is with the Wolfner Library, which is based in Jefferson City, Missouri, and they provide services for the blind. So you will see some of the things that we do for blind people as far as helping them get information and also, entertaining materials and things like that. We want to serve everyone, okay? And somebody who is blind or somebody who is deaf or somebody who can't walk, my heart goes out to all of them. And we've got to do things to make things better for those of us who don't have the same abilities as others. And I think that that's very important. And in fact, we are also, for those of you who don't know, University of Missouri is also running our courses through compliance. We are required to do this by law, but we also want to do it, quite frankly, because we also want our courses to be as accessible as possible, no matter what disabilities people face, okay? And by the way, having said that, yes, I believe you all have done it at this point because it is November, but yes, certainly in the future as well, if you have me in a class, speak to the disabilities office on campus if you need to, so that they will come up with an accommodation plan that I can use so that I can better serve you. And that's what I want to do as your instructor who cares about you. Okay, so that was a long-winded way of saying, yes, we will be talking about the disabled next week, specifically the blind. And then outside of that, you do have, again, your semester-long project is due on December 12th. You have one more discussion board prompt. You had one that was due this past Sunday, so hopefully you got that through. And your last one is going to be due on December the 7th. And then also your LibGuides, because that's not showing up there for some reason. And again, I don't know why. But yes, your LibGuides are going to be due on the 23rd. So, and I'm looking forward to seeing those. And I am also working to try to get caught up on the discussion board prompts, grading those. I know I've been saying that for a while, but quite frankly, there's been a lot going on. As I tell my classes, things get busier for me in October and in March due to some obligations that I have with the school. Okay. All right. So yes, keep working on those semester-long projects. LibGuides, if you got questions, reach out to me. I would love to help you and answer your questions and that sort of thing. And yes, again, just try to, I know that school isn't always an enjoyable thing, but enjoy what you can out of this class, okay? There is no reason why you shouldn't be having at least somewhat of a good time doing this, if at all possible, all right? Okay, so now that we've got all of that situated, that is it for the state of the course updates. And let's now talk about these two databases. And these two databases are going to be opposing viewpoints and context, which I am going to show in a little bit more depth. And then the CQ Researcher, which has been upgraded since I stopped librarian practice and became a full-time instructor in 2020 during the pandemic. So the CQ Researcher has actually undergone a substantial revamp since 2020, and I have not been trained on that particular database fully. So all I can do really with CQ Researcher is show you some of the basics of it and what you would use it for. But then as far as giving you sort of an in-depth intro, I can't really do that because I'm not trained well enough on that database, and I just haven't had the time to get there. Hopefully next semester, even though that doesn't help you all, that I'm at least going to tell you some basics and make you aware of it. And then if you want to actually master the database, you do need to put the time in and learn it. Okay. All right, but let's start with opposing viewpoints because that is the one that I have a lot of familiarity with. All right, so the first one we're going to go to is going to be this guy right here, opposing viewpoints. And this is a very, very easy database to use. So it's definitely going to be one that you're going to want to, especially if you have like high school students or even middle school students who are trying to write about controversial issues and things like that. This is a database that you can definitely point them to, just show them the basics, get them started, and they'll be able to navigate this. Okay, it's a very easy database to use. There we go, and now we are in. And so here's where you will be brought. And actually, I prefer, with opposing viewpoints, I actually prefer to browse the issues, okay? You can do an advanced search or a search in general. You can do a free-form search, and I'll do that after I do the browse issues. But quite frankly, I would encourage you all to, when you're trying to show somebody this database, try to get them on the browse issues feature, which is right over here. And when you come over here, you basically just get a listing of controversial issues. And I will say that all your heavy hitters are here, your abortion. In fact, we've got several things with abortion, your death penalty, which might be listed as capital punishment, but it is in here. Let me see how they actually... so that might be as a capital punishment that they listed as, because I didn't see death penalty there. Yeah, capital punishment, you've got that. So you've got your classics, but then you've got some things that may not be exactly what you particularly think of when you think about controversial issues, but certainly there are things to explore. So things like recycling. Recycling may not be one of the things that you think, oh man, that's such a controversial issue, but once you actually get in there, you'll see, oh yeah, there's some give and take there, and there's some arguments to be had. Same with government spending, globalization, green cities, sex education, sexting, sexual harassment. Elon Musk has made his way on this because there is something for X, formerly Twitter. So yeah, online dating, you've got a lot of controversial and contentious issues here, okay? You've got the whole gambit, and so that's why I prefer to, again, just go into go into your list of options here and then find the proper thing. And I'll show you why this is an advantage. So let's go with the recycling. Let's do something that's not really controversial tonight in that way. Yeah, let's just stay away from controversy tonight. So we can go to recycling. We can come here. And when you go to a topic, the first thing that you're going to see is an overview essay. And the overview essay can be really good because, again, it just gives you the foundation. It can tell you what the hot button topics within that overarching issue is. And you get some measures here. There's your Lexile numbers. So this Lexile measurement, this is something that a high schooler will be just fine with, and even a middle schooler in a lot of cases, or at least the 8th grader. You've got your date there, so this is fairly recent, 2024. Actually, that's really recent for this database because some of them will go back like 10 years or something, but this one thankfully doesn't. And so again, you've got this overview essay, and this overview essay kind of introduces you to everything. But then you can go back, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back and I'm just going to scroll down so you can see the beauty of what this database does. So you can scroll down and then, okay, this is new. This related topics thing here is new, but I like it. This wasn't here even when I was demoing this back in the spring, so it might have been added during the summer, but I like this. I like that. So I like that that's there. But then we scroll down, and this is really what I want to focus on right here. You scroll down, and then you get into this breakdown of different source types. So we've got things about recycling, we've got featured viewpoints, and viewpoints are featured viewpoint essays that really tackle specific things within the topic that you're talking about. Then you have just more general viewpoint essays, and again, so you can get things that are pro or con to whatever you're trying to argue. And then as you scroll down, you can get statistics that can be helpful. You got audio, you've got websites, primary sources, reference things, so encyclopedias, dictionaries, and that sort of thing. And then your money makers, of course, what people are really going to be looking for the most are going to be your magazine, journal, and news articles. You actually even have one biography in there, so that's pretty interesting. But yeah, these are the big guys. But the thing is, what makes this so great is as you scroll down, you will see that all of these things are there. So let's say that you did have a student, and the student was like, well, I've got to write about recycling. I've got to write about I have to have a view within recycling, and I want somebody who's written something similar to my views so that they can help me kind of state my views better. First, you can go into viewpoints and get that. You can go into viewpoints and you'll see all these viewpoint essays, and then you can just find one that, let's say that for some reason you see the zero waste movement shifts the blame from corporations to consumers. You see that and you're like, oh, that's on the money. I want that. I want to see what's being said there. You can see what's being commented on there, the commentary of this, and then you can incorporate some of that into what you are writing or what you are speaking about, you being the patron in this case. But yeah, so you can use this and you can just kind of determine, okay, these are some of the arguments for, these are some of the arguments against, this is what I need to be prepared for. And you can go ahead and arm yourself with that knowledge. And then once you have somebody also saying, okay, well, now I've got the viewpoint and that's great, but now I also need some magazines and some news articles that can help me out with this. When you're dealing with middle school and high school students, they're probably not going to be dealing with academic journals. That stuff is just too much for them usually, so they'll be mostly dealing with magazines and news articles. But you can scroll to those as well, or you could have just pushed that button. I could have done that. But yeah, so you've got your magazines here, and then you can use the magazines and everything defaults in the full text, and that's another good part of this database. So you'll see like a word count here, but you're not going to have to go looking for this full text. You click that article title and it's all going to be there. That's your full text, and then you'll even have your needed citation information here. But again, remember that the citations are computer generated and they're only accurate 80% of the time, so they're not to be relied on. Okay. But yes, this is just, again, a great way to just get that information and to have a lot of information about a particular controversial topic all in one place. And a lot of people really do appreciate that. So this ends up being a very, very useful database. And you might even just find some of this stuff fun. We have a lot of feminists within the library field, and so yeah, for instance, you could click on feminism and get a lot of good information there, and there might even be some fun reading there. You might find some magazine articles within that that could just be fun reading as well. Now, let me show you this advanced search really quick, or just let me show you this really quick. But this is not something that I really use. But let's say that you wanted to do something related to cocaine. I wonder if we can do cocaine legalization. Nah, not that one. No, narcotics legalization, they have that. But then what you might have to do again is cocaine and legalization. That might be the only way to get there if you're trying to do something not specifically. Marijuana legalization is going to be all over the place, but I mean, that's marijuana. That's a drug that we can enjoy without as many of the consequences that you will get from cocaine use. So you'll see, again, once you do that, you'll see that they return these things, again, by source type. So all of these things have keyword cocaine and legalization in them. And you can still get some pretty good articles or some pretty good, this is a good viewpoint here, legalization of drugs would increase violent crime. I don't know whether or not that's true, but that's certainly something that somebody who is trying to write or speak about this topic might want to look at so that they can be like, I do agree, or I don't agree. And they can find some ways to kind of refute those arguments. And so you can scroll, you can do all these and get these different source types here. So that's pretty much how that database works. Nothing that's really requiring you to reinvent the wheel here, but again, I wanted you to be aware of this database and its existence because there's a lot of good stuff that comes out of that database. All right, that's really all we need to do as far as looking at that database. If you want to get more information and more comfort with opposing viewpoints, then watch some tutorials and go into the database yourself and get some practice on it. Now, I can't remember now if Mizzou has this database or not. I access it through my local public library, and most public libraries do have this one. All right, let's go into the CQ Researcher. Give me one moment. All right, so the second one that I told you about was the CQ Researcher, and so we are going to go into that one right now. And the CQ Researcher, again, this is a fantastic database, but it's also a database that had been revamped not too long ago. And because it's been revamped, again, the searchability of it has completely changed. And so, again, even though it's been a few years, I still haven't had a chance to just sit down with it and master it again because, quite frankly, it's not something that I use in my day-to-day work anymore. And I don't visit it often enough on my own to really be able to do much with it, okay? But so CQ Researcher, the great thing about CQ Researcher is you get links back to a lot of helpful stuff in the footnotes, and that's really what people mostly use it for. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time bumbling around on this, especially since, quite frankly, again, I haven't learned how to master this database yet. I'm not going to spend a lot of time just running into problems and having you all be confused and frustrated. But what I will say is I'm going to show you a few things to kind of show you what I mean when I say that this is a database that will build a bibliography or a references list. If you're doing APA, it'll build that thing up really quickly. So let's go to a hot topic. Ew. I also don't like how long it's been since, yeah, that is not, I don't like that they're calling something that's over a year old a new release. Again, I've got to remaster this database because things are, but yeah, let's just go into it. Let's go into gun control. And so what happens is you get a report basically. And so we're in the gun control report right now. 2024, that's awful. I would have wished there was something a little newer than that, so I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, on July, former President Trump. Come on, man. Okay, but you start out with an abstract, and then you got a current situation chronology, and the footnotes again is what I really, really want you all to be keyed in on, the footnotes. Okay. So you've got some information right here. Now let's say that you read through this current situation article and it's great. And it gives you a lot of information. You got a timeline down there and everything. But let's say it gives you, that's the chronology. Let's say it gives you a lot of great information to work with. But let's say what you want to do is you want to build that sources list up really, really quick. The great thing about this database is you get these footnotes and you can just click it. And then, so long as the link hasn't died, you can actually just go right in there. Kamala Harris is a gun owner. You just click that link, and hopefully, there we go. Bada bing, bada boom. It loads, and you read that information, and if there's stuff that you can use in that information, then you just put it in there. You add that, and again, boom, you've got a source. And I have seen so many people have so much success by building source lists based on following the footnotes here, okay? That is the strength of this database. Now, there are a lot of other features in here now, but again, this is what I am going to call the strength of this database is, again, finding these viewpoint essays or these pro and con essays. So I'm going to look at this Pro and con of adoption. Okay, that's a good one, because there's some really messed up stuff going on with adoption these days. Now, as you can see, it's a lot of old stuff that might end up in here. 1991. Some of y'all were, actually, a lot of you weren't even born at that point. I was, because I'm old. I was born in 83. But yeah, 91. So transracial adoptions, are they bad for black children? This is some good stuff being written here. So you got this pro and con question. You can go back to 1993. Read that. Again, you've got this overview. You've got a much larger overview in this case, because this is one of those pro-con articles. So you'll see you've got all of these pieces now, not just an abstract and a few other things. Now you've got outlook, pro-con, blah, 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 blah. But you still get the footnotes too. And you're going to have even a lot more footnotes on this one. How many footnotes is this guy going to have? Oh, actually, it doesn't have that many, just 25. So never mind. But I was expecting more. But also, pro-con is also something that can be very useful. What will happen is you click pro-con, and then it'll show another thing that was written by somebody else. It's not always an article. It could just be a little essay there. You got Peter Hayes in this case. I don't even know who he is, but it does tell us temporary assistant professor. So there you go. So you can get this information as well. And with pros and cons, you can actually, by highlighting the pros and cons and reading that, you can see what arguments you should expect to encounter, as well as, so you'll know what arguments you'll expect to encounter, and then you'll get some ideas as to how to counter those arguments when they come, because you'll already be prepared for them, and you'll see some things that kind of already address those things, and you can incorporate that into your own arguments. Okay, so that is, again, what CQ Researcher, that's the strengths of it. But if you actually want to learn this database, you need to sit down, like I need to do. We all need to sit down with it, I guess, and learn its functionality in this update. It was a lot simpler to use in the old way, but you know, things don't stay the same. So there you go. Anyway, yeah, we can wrap it up right there. And I think that was decent. Yeah, I said I'd try to keep it under 25 minutes, and I was able to, and I hope you sped it up. If you did speed it up, then it's even shorter. With that said, I am Dr. Jace, and Opposing Viewpoints and CQ Researcher are two good databases that you should use if you are trying to make a case for something, particularly on a controversial subject. Jace Case. I make my rhyme, and I can go to sleep. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And next week, we will not have a check-in video, but I will see you in the sync session. And I am very excited to see you all in our final sync session of the semester. Until then, take care, be blessed, love you.